You're listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, what's going on today, Taylor? I've been kind of busy and whatnot.
Is it Monday?
It's, you'd think, right? No, we're doing a little special show because apparently Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee for his party. He is declining to run further.
What?
Yeah, you knew that. And everybody knows by now. I mean, my phone's been blowing up for the last hour because I want to know what the old professor has to say about all of this. And so we're going to do a little quick show here and probably do know on Thursday after some of the dust is settled. But because, there's a lot of unknowns in the air. What I say today may be, validated or obsolete by Tuesday. And that's happened more than once in this. I like to collect readings in the morning and something I'll read after supper at night.
Same.
I'll just cut and paste them or I'll list them and then I'll go get to them later. And sometimes in the last couple of weeks, by the time I got to them, they were already out of date from the morning that I cut and paste. Oh, yeah. That's how fast this story is moving. But your professor is on top of it. And Taylor tells me, we got to do something today because you're going to be out of town tomorrow, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll leave first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm. But you'll be back in time for Thursday's show at least.
Yes, but I made time so Mr. Allard could break some news.
We appreciate it. And we appreciate the sponsors for making all this possible. I'm not going to go through all the ads and stuff like that because y'all know who they are, but we do appreciate what they allow me to do and bring to y'all and whatnot. And so this is going to be a very informal show. It's not particularly organized. We kind of doing this on the fly. I just be riffing, as the kids used to say. Do they still say
riffing?
That? Riffing.
I have no idea.
Riffing.
I'm not a kid.
Okay. Well, you're a lot younger than I am, but anyway.
True.
A couple more years, I could run for president. Anyway. You said you had a clip from ABC?
Yeah, it's the only one I can find so far. This is actually breaking.
Okay. Put, if you would, the first headlines from the news on, if you would. Yes, from the Post and Times, and there they are. And so there you go. Biden drops out of the race. Biden steps aside, and of course what you're getting and what I'm seeing on social media, and I have a couple of friends that are sending me stuff from Twitter. I'm not a Twitter guy, but they send me some stuff. Everybody's praising Joe for stepping aside for the good of the country and things of that nature. Well, I have to be very honest. I'm very surprised about this. I thought Joe Biden would hang on for grim death until finally they wheeled him out of there by force because it's against everything that he's ever talked about being the guy that gets knocked down and stands back up, the guy who they never gave a chance and he has to come back, and that he was always the guy that there was the least considered senator in the Senate, yet he became a leader and a president and all this other business. And I thought he's not going to give that up. And Jill and Hunter Biden are surely not going to give all that up. And the entire Biden family, it's like a family enterprise around Joe, and they don't want to give that up. And I guess, everything they said led me to believe that he's not going to give it up. I mean, this morning on the talk shows, his campaign people were out there saying Joe will be in the race. He kept saying adamantly, I will not leave this race. And then boom, this drops. Somebody texted me and said, hey, did you hear about Joe Biden? I go, no idea. But the point is that I really thought the only way he would not be the nominee is if they forced him off the ticket. I never saw him really voluntarily stepping aside and endorsing somebody else, which is what's happened. So I was wrong on that one. And so was a lot of other people, but that's fine. I think Joe surprised a lot of people. Or else, why would he have his campaign people, as of this morning, being just absolutely dead dog confident that Joe was going to run, and all of a sudden, bam. Now, this opens up a whole other raft of questions I hardly even know anything about, to tell you the truth. This has never happened in my lifetime, certainly, and I'm going back into history. When did a party at this late a stage change their candidates? And I don't think that's ever happened. We've never had a situation where a candidate died right before an election. Not at this level. It's happened in other races, but not at the presidential level. It's never had a situation where, because of his unelectability, the party changed their mind after doing everything they can. I'm going to comment about that at the end because I really do have a big bone to pick with the Democrat Party. for what they put this country through. But I'll save that for the end. Also, as far as the process, I don't even think the Democrats know what that process is going to be. And how's it going to impact the election? Who's going to be the vice president? Or vice presidential choice. That's something I'll explore, but it's not really anything I know a whole lot about. Neither do they. So run that clip from ABC News, if you would.
Right back to our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. And Mary, we are following these rapidly moving developments. First, we had the letter from the president of the United States saying that he was going to step aside in this race. Now we are seeing yet another post on social media from President Biden, because the big question after the president announced that he was going to step aside in this race was who exactly was going to step in. Mary Bruce, it seems like the president has an answer to that question on who he's endorsing here.
Rachel, the president, in a tweet just announcing that he is offering his full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the party. I want to read this full message from him. He says, "My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination, to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term." He says, "My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made." He says, "Today I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats," he says, "it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this." The president has always made clear, Rachel, that he believes that Kamala Harris has what it takes to be president. He wouldn't have chosen her to be vice president if he didn't. But we have seen sort of an interesting change in the way he's talked about Kamala Harris, even in the last 2 weeks. It was just 5 days ago.
I'm good. All right, we got the point. I mean, here's the thing. Nobody should be surprised of this. I mean, if Joe Biden, for whatever you want to think of him, he's been a loyal party Democrat forever. And if he dropped out of the race and said, "It's up to you, who do you want? I'm not going to get involved in this," it would cause a lot of turmoil and stress for the Democrat Party. And it just added to the confusion that we've been seeing for the last few months from them. So that didn't surprise me one iota that he endorsed Harris. Whether he believes everything he just said or not, it's immaterial. It's going to be Harris is going to be your new candidate for the Democrats. And how they're going to do that, I don't know. It's not like Joe can just wave of his hand, say she's the person, and that's it. It doesn't work like that. And so we don't, will they go through the pretense of a convention, go through the roll call vote, she gets it, boom, that's probably what's going to happen. As far as anybody else, the only the people that they ever talk about over and over again, Newsom of California, Whitmer of Michigan, Shapiro of Pennsylvania, they all said earlier on they would not oppose Harris if this is what comes to pass. And there you go. So as far as like any other Democrat raising their hand, that ain't going to happen either, because you're just asking for trouble. You're just asking for all sorts of trouble as a party member if you try to make a stink about things. Now, whether or not she's a good candidate or not, I'm really not going to get into that today, but Thursday, after the show we have with Kay Goodell and the Railroaders, we're going to do another brief little clip, and I'll have a bit more to go by other than just my gut reaction. But I'll give the gut reaction, but I'll have more data, I guess, or more smarter people than I comment on it to see what happens. Maybe some polls will be out by then. There already have been polls between Trump and Harris even before this announcement, and it showed Trump's still ahead nationally, maybe about a point better for Harris. There was one poll that came out that showed Harris ahead, but most of them showed Trump ahead. As far as the states, who knows? That's, again, something I want to go grind through on Thursday. As far as the endorsement and all that, it will make a difference. It will prevent more chaos, and that's not a bad thing. Now, what I suspect will happen in the next week when it comes to the polls, go back to that topic for a second, she'll probably get an initial boost because people will be kind of more excited. I know that a couple of my Democrat friends are more excited about Harris and Biden, and I'm, my opinion of Harris is not particularly high, but again, I don't want to get into every detail. But it's going to really cause some issues in the next few weeks on how they replace her, how quickly how they replace him. Benjamin Nichols says, if they threaten him behind closed doors. I don't know if that's really what they did as much as threatened him, but they probably they probably said you're going to be all by yourself on your own trying to run for president. You're not going to have any party support. You're not going to have any money and all this other stuff. And you'll end up embarrassing yourself. And I think Joe just don't want to be embarrassed. That was probably the biggest thing. And so that's what I was thinking. As far as, is he going to embarrass himself or not? And that very likely could happen. I mean, it really could. I'm going to try to save this, or I say share it to all of my various groups here. Like I said, this is a pretty informal show here. There we go. There's that, and one more. I'm trying to find the one that not that one. Crud. I'll find it in a minute. It's I'm looking for the politics page here locally, and I thought I had it here, but well, I'll find it in a minute. Don't worry about that. Just anyway, back to what we were talking about. Also, Ben, you're very busy this afternoon. It's been a fight behind closed doors, not so much between the Obama side and the Biden side. Benjamin says Michelle doesn't want it, so likely Hillary. I just don't believe that Hillary is going to even raise their hands, because they're going to try to create a unified response to all of this. There it is. They don't want to have this, all messed up. They don't want to have a situation where they are seen as fighting even more than they are before. I have to wonder what Hillary Clinton is thinking right now, because she actually is younger than either Biden or Trump. She's 74, I believe. And so I think that would be, I just wonder if they'll even hear that kind of whispering going on. But from everything I've said and seen, everything I've read and seen, rather, they're trying to make the path smooth with Ms. Harris. How will that impact the vote? These are just my guesses. Okay, one is that it may change some of the youth vote. A lot of the youth vote was not going to vote for Mr. Biden for various reasons, age being among them, but not just that, but all the other, but the policy issues. And it surprised me, because I thought, the Democrats usually tend to be the party of the younger voter, but not in this election so far. Will that change? I don't know. As far as the minority vote, there's going to be a lot of talk about it. Will it change the black vote or the Hispanic vote towards the Democrats back? Because Mr. Trump had made some pretty significant inroads with those two major voting blocks. This is my guess, but I don't know for sure. My guess is it's not going to change that much, because a lot of the reasons that the minority vote had been floating over to Mr. Trump really had nothing to do with Harris, certainly, and it wasn't even so much with Biden, because, here's the thing we have to understand. Harris is, she's not a blank slate. She has to run on Biden's record. It's not like she's a candidate for the first time and there's nothing they could pin on her. She has to run on Biden's record. She's going to have to either take ownership of inflation and the border and the situations with the Chinese and with the Russians, et cetera, or she's going to have to throw her former boss under the bus. And she can't say, well, I wasn't in the room when that was decided, because that's not a good thing for a candidate to say who claims to have all this experience as vice president. I remember, this is a long time, this will date me, but I remember when George H.W. Bush was running for president, and there's some things that they were trying to tag him for the Reagan situations, particularly in Central America and stuff like that. And he said, well, I wasn't in the room. They said, well, then why are you running? If you don't have that kind of experience, you always are talking about if you weren't in the room. So either she's going to have to take ownership of that border situation, which was her first assignment, which he neglected for almost the entire presidency, or vice presidency, rather. Or she's going to have to say things that contradict her boss's policies. Same thing with taxes, same thing with national defense, you name it. She's going to that's what happens when a vice president runs for office. That happened to Al Gore. That happened to George H.W. It's happened to every vice president that's ever run. Immediately after, it happened to Nixon, even though that wasn't quite as severe because everybody liked Eisenhower. But the point is that you, as a vice president serving in an administration, you're going to have to either disown or own what is going on in the administration you just oversaw or helped oversee. And that's going to be a real issue. And so to bring it back, my point around to the minority vote, how is she going to address the things that caused them to drift over? It wasn't Joe Biden's age or anything like that. It was the economy, it was the border, and all these things. And unless she can address it differently than Biden did, then I don't know if that's really going to make much of an impact. Also, as far as the Midwest, that's where the battle's being fought, is basically 3 states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. I don't have a prediction on how that's going to work out, but I do know that each of those states have a major population center with a very large number of minority voters, and maybe that will increase enough to offset some of the voting that will go on outside of Philadelphia, outside of Detroit, outside of Milwaukee. And so I'm going to have to see polls before I make a stab at that. My gut feeling is it's not going to help having her on the ticket because, again, she can't run as what they call an aspirational candidate. In other words, these are all the great things going to do, because she's going to have to answer for all the things that have already been done. And that she's going to have to defend that record. And she's going to have to defend her own record as the Attorney General of California, which is not any liberal's idea of a good governance. She was much harder on small-time pot holders and small possession and stuff like that than she was that even Texas was in many cases. And so she had a reputation for being very, very prosecutorial on small-level drug offenses. And then she's from San Francisco, and that place is a mess. And so, she served in the city government of San Francisco. So those are the things that she's going to have to answer for. And I don't know if that's going to translate well in other outside of those areas. Now, there's also another wild card. I believe we sent you that text a friend sent me. It was a tweet, Taylor. It's one. I think this was the last one. Oh yeah. Okay. Here's the one. Speaker Johnson of the House was talking on CNN with Jay Tapper, and he says, quote, that the Dems will face lawsuits if they want to replace Biden as their nominee. I think they got legal hurdles in some of these states, and it will be litigated, I would expect, on the ground there. They got a problem. Now, I have no idea about the legal status of all this, in various states, because each state handles their own situation. But I do know there comes a point where there is a point definite where you have to be on the ballot. You have to be nominated to be on, and you have to be on the ballot by, say, the end of August in some cases and whatever else. What is speculated by some is that the Republicans in those states are going to raise lawsuits, and they'll try to run the clock out, and appeals and all this other business. And the Supreme Court might have to jump in and make this happen before it's too late and that kind of thing. But I do know that there'll be certain states, and you can bet your booties it's going to be Texas is going to be one of them. You think Ken Paxton's going to let this go by? He's going to probably bring a suit saying that they can't replace Joe Biden on the ballot because he was nominated by the Democrat Party of this state and things of that nature. Will that succeed or not? I don't know. I don't know the law on this, but I do know it'll run the clock a bit. And in some states, it'll be a very big deadline before they can make this happen. I could see it happen in Ohio. They're one of the first states. The deadline was August 7th. The Republicans file a lawsuit tomorrow. In the right court, then you could have a situation when they miss the ballots. This is what makes it all so crazy, is you could have a situation where Democrats may not have a presidential candidate on a couple of states' ballots. I don't know if that's going to happen, and I guess the Democrats are already kind of mad about that possibility happening. But I also have to remind them they did this in Colorado against Mr. Trump, now for different reasons. And the Supreme Court stepped in and said Colorado can't do that. They can't invoke the 14th Amendment on their own and that kind of thing. I don't know if there is going to be any connection with those cases or not. But I do believe that there will be cases, and there'll be appeals. And it'll go to the state Supreme Courts of the various states, and all this will take time, even if they put it on the express lane. And it'll drag this thing out. and you may not see these resolved in some of the states until mid-August. And so that, but I will have to wait and see about that. Ben here again says, I can't imagine they let Kamala get it. Her backstory, how she came to power will wreck her in election. Well, what he's referring to is that she had a relationship with the married mayor of San Francisco to start her political career. He appointed her a district attorney, and then or an attorney with the city. Then she was elected district attorney for San Francisco, and then Attorney General of California. So her early political career is going to come up. You're going to hear a lot about that, about her relationship with a guy named Willie Brown, who ran California politics for about 30 years. So you'll hear about that, and I hope it doesn't get too salacious or whatnot, but that'll be part of it. You're also going to hear from the other side that people don't like her because that she's a woman or she's a minority, whatever. That's rubbish. You know, to me, when I hear that kind of argument from somebody, oh, you don't like her because she's this, that, or the other, or she's a woman, or I just think you don't have a better argument than that. I don't, you know, if you can't criticize a black candidate, then that's hardly what I call free speech. But it's also wrong. It's like saying, you know, that we're going to restrict any legitimate criticism by discarding all of it as racist or misogynist. That's not the case here. And I hope this doesn't take on an aspect of that. I really don't. When Mr. Obama ran, there was some of that. And when he was president, there was some of that. And he used to bug the crap out of me. He said, no, I'm not being racist when I criticize Barack Obama. I didn't like his policy. But we'll see. And if you start seeing candidates making that excuse, then they don't have an argument. Now, a big asterisk by that, given the loose lips of Mr. Trump, you never know what he's going to say. So you may even give him the ammunition it takes to make that even a valid excuse, even a little bit. So Trump is... If they're smart, they have already prepared for this. This should not have caught them by surprise, but there you are. That's all I have to say about this right now. After the show on Thursday, we may do another little brief 15, 20-minute little blip to try to see what's happened in the next 96 hours or so. And Taylor, you're going to be in Tennessee, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Maybe they've heard of it over there, you think? I don't know. It's
maybe
down in the hollers today. News travels slow. So anyway, we'll visit on this in a few days. So tomorrow I have Victoria on. I don't know if I'm going to ask her about this. So we'll see all what's going on. I hope to see you all again tomorrow. Thanks for spending a little time with on this on your Sunday afternoon or whenever you listen or hear this or see it or whatnot. Tell your friends, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.